All right, today we are diving into the 12th part of the Quran. And let me tell you, this section reads like a collection of epic sagas. It's just packed with these incredible stories of trial, betrayal, and ultimately triumph. So what's the big idea that connects them all? Well, let's find out together. But before we even get into the who, what, and where of these stories, this just makes you ask a much bigger question. Why? Why does the Quran spend so much time telling us about things that happened so long ago? What's the point of retelling all these ancient histories? So hang on to that question because the answer is really the key to understanding this entire section. So interestingly, this part of the Quran doesn't just jump into a story. Nope. It actually starts by laying down a kind of foundation of belief, a framework for everything that's about to happen. And it all centers on two really powerful ideas: God's providence, and the whole purpose of life being a test. So the very first thing we hear is this powerful statement. The opening verses say that God is the ultimate provider, the one who sustains everything. The text basically says there's not a single creature crawling on this earth whose provision isn't already taken care of. Now that's a huge idea to start with. It completely reframes our existence, right? It's not some frantic scramble for stuff, but a journey where our needs are already guaranteed by a divine provider. Okay, so if our survival is basically taken care of, then what's the point of, well, everything else? The text gives us two big reasons. First, life is like an arena, a test, to see who actually does the best things, who makes the best choices. But second, it's not just about what we do. The entire universe, in all its complexity and beauty, was created so that we could get to know the Creator. So it's kind of this dual mission: act righteously and understand the one who made it all possible. All right, so now let's see how these big ideas about trials and consequences actually play out in real life. We're got to jump into the heart of this juz, and it's this rapid-fire series of stories about different prophets and what happened to their communities. Now, what's really fascinating here is that you start to see a very clear pattern emerge. In the stories we're about to see, this four-step cycle just repeats itself, almost like a formula. It always starts with a prophet bringing a clear message. Then that message is rejected by most of the people. The prophet then gives a final serious warning. And then finally, there's a big outcome where the believers are separated from the disbelievers. Once you see this pattern, you really start to get the central message. First up, we have the story of Prophet Nuh. His mission was the definition of perseverance. The Quran says he preached for nearly 1,000 years. Can you imagine? And after all that time, almost everyone, including his own son, just refused to listen. The final result was that famous massive flood, a natural force that wiped out the disbelievers and saved the very few who had kept the faith. Next, we meet Prophet Hud. He was sent to the people of Ad, and these people were known for their incredible strength and their huge, towering buildings. But all that power made them arrogant, so when they rejected the message, their punishment was almost poetic, you could say. They were completely wiped out by a ferocious, unstoppable wind that their mighty buildings couldn't do a thing about. Then there's the story of Prophet Salih and the people of Thamud. These guys basically dared God to show them a miracle. And they got one, a she-camel that came right out of a solid rock. The only rule was, don't harm it. And what did they do? In this huge act of defiance, they killed it. The consequence was immediate and terrifying, a single mighty blast, a sound so powerful it just ended their civilization right then and there. The story then shifts to Prophet Lut. He was sent to a city where, according to the text, a severe form of immorality had become totally normal, even public. After all the warnings were ignored, the consequence was, again, very specific to their actions. Their entire city was literally flipped upside down and pelted with stones of hard clay. And the last story in this sequence is about Prophet Shuayb, who was sent to the people of Madyan. Now, their big problem was corruption in the economy. They were cheating people left and right in the marketplace. When they rejected his call to be honest, their whole unjust society was brought down by a massive earthquake. So each of these stories is about a community facing a test and failing. But what happens when it's an individual who's being tested? And that's where this juz makes a huge shift in pacing. After that quick series of stories about whole communities, it slows way down. It zooms right in and spends most of its time on one single, incredibly detailed and deeply personal story, the story of Prophet Yusuf, or as you might know him, Joseph. This story of Yusuf is a real epic. It's a journey with these unbelievable highs and absolutely crushing lows. Just look at this timeline. It starts with a prophetic dream, then he's betrayed and thrown in a well, sold into slavery in a foreign country, faces this huge test of his character, gets thrown in prison for years, and then, somehow, rises to a position of immense power. It is a complete roller coaster of human experience. So, what kicks off this whole incredible drama? It's all right here in this quote from his brothers. This is just raw, unfiltered jealousy. They felt like their dad loved Yusuf more and they couldn't stand it. And that one single corrosive emotion is the spark that sets off a chain of events that will last for decades and cross empires. See, their jealousy wasn't just some feeling they had. It turned into a full-blown plot. They took their little brother and threw him into a well, leaving him for dead. But what they thought was the end of his story was actually just the beginning. By a twist of fate, or you could say divine providence, a caravan finds him. And just like that, his journey takes this wild turn as he's taken to Egypt to be sold as a slave. Now, in Egypt, things start to look up for a bit. But then Yusuf faces maybe his toughest personal test yet. The wife of the powerful man he works for tries to seduce him. He refuses, choosing his integrity over the easy way out. But in this incredibly cruel twist, that good deed leads directly to his downfall. He's falsely accused and thrown into prison, where he stays for years. So, after all of that, after the epic stories of entire nations and this intimate journey of one man, what's the big takeaway? What's the common thread that ties all of this together? Okay, let's bring it all home in this last section. This whole juz is really building up to this one critical idea, istiqamah, or in English, steadfastness. This is the quality that linked all those prophets together. It means being absolutely firm in your principles and your character, not when things are easy, but precisely when you're under immense pressure, when you're being betrayed, or when you're tempted, all the things that defines Yusuf's life. And this takes us right back to that question we asked at the very beginning. Why are these stories told? Well, the Quran tells us exactly why. They're meant to strengthen the heart of a person who's going through their own struggles. They're a clear lesson and a reminder that never gets old. They confirm the truth that hardship, if you meet it with patience and steadfastness, will eventually lead to success. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. The stories of Noah, Hud, Salih, Lut, Shuayb, and the unbelievable life of Yusuf, they aren't just history lessons. They're like mirrors. They force us to ask ourselves, when we face our own personal trials, our own wells, our own temptations, our own moments of rejection, how do we react? What does being steadfast look like for us, right here, right now?